Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sentence Diagramming 101. We are in part 2, chapter 3, and we made it to section E, which is the end. Yay! But just a reminder, so now we've gone through Sidvas and Steve Does and Stiviodos and Steve Docs, but a reminder, you do need a direct object in order to have an indirect object or an object complement. So your Steve Doe and your Stivio Doe and your Steve Doc are all related. It's kind of very similar, but you will not have an indirect object and an object complement, right? It's not a stevioach. That's not an option. So keep that in mind as you are using these acronyms and learning, the different names for things. But there's only one pattern left, and it's an easy one. So it is the subject linking verb subject complement. It is the SLVSC. So what you are looking at here is when you have a subject and then you have a to be verb, right? A linking verb. So Kevin Smith is what? Director. So the director here is telling me more about Kevin Smith. It is going back and complementing the subject, just like the object complement went back and complemented the object. Subject complement does the same thing. His movies are delightful. So delightful is telling me more about those movies. Subject complement. In Clerks, Randall is Dante's best friend. So friend tells me about Randall. So friend is the subject complement there. And if you want to talk about the diagram, we're doing the same thing, right? With this horizontal line, vertical division between subject and verb. But instead of a straight up and down line like you have for the direct object, the subject complement line is a backward slant. So remember, it kind of looks like it's pointing back to the subject, just like in the previous one, the object complement looked like it was pointing back to the direct object. So in this case, you've got this backwards leaning line. So it's leaning back. It's not leaning forward. It's leaning backward. And that matters because diagramming is particular about what each symbol, right, means and what the spacing means. So if we're going to go to this Kevin Smith one, we've got Kevin Smith is director, right? And then he's a director and he's a famous director. So those are adjectives. Moving on, his movies are delightful. So we're like, movies are delightful and they are his movies. So adjective telling me about the movies. Which movies? His. Now we're in Clerks. Oh, look, we've got a prepositional phrase. It's been a while since we had one of those. But what does this tell us? It tells us where, right? Where is Randall, Dante's best friend? In the movie Clerks. So it's an adverb. So adverbs go under the verb always. So we have Randall is friend. He is in Clerks, a friend, adverb. And then he's Dante's friend and he's a best friend. So all of these examples have been with to be verbs, but linking verbs can be other kinds of verbs like seem or appear, become, look, feel, grow, remain, prove, right? There's a couple of them. But your subject complement is going to be a noun, a pronoun, or an adjective. If you've got a linking verb, you're going to be looking at a SLVSC is how it shakes out. Now, just like you can have compound subjects and objects, you can have compound subject complements. Same thing, right? You just throw them in there. Rocket ship. And then you can also have compound adjectives in a sentence with a subject complement. And in that case, you do it sideways. So you put your adjectives down and then you put the and on a horizontal line. Now, take a minute to pause and do exercise 3E and practice diagramming your SLVSCs, and then watch the video and check your answers. But before we end, I'm just going to move on because there's a little bit of a review at the end of chapter 3. And the first part deals with how to break down into subcategories the SLVSC. Remember, I said there were 10 different patterns. We only really lumped them into 5. These are the other, distinctions. So if you wanted to divide the SLVSC up, you would divide it into whether it is a noun or an adjective acting as the subject complement. And again, it's going to be the nominative being a noun or the adjective being an adjective. So in this case, we've got director. Director is a thing, so it's a noun. So this is a SLVSC N, right? It might also be a PN, depending on what book you look at, if they're doing the predicate nominative thing again, but most of them just call it nominative. If you've got delightful, delightful is an adjective, so this is a SLVSC A, right? This is an adjective, again, might be a predicate adjective, a PA, depending, but usually this is the common way to do it. And then the last one, friend. Friend is a thing, so it's a noun, so SLVSC N. So sometimes people will really subdivide. So they're like, hey, did you know you could also divide a SLVSC not just into whether it's an adjective or a noun, but whether it's a to be verb or not a to be verb? So those would be the other kinds. So they'll do linking verb, asterisk, or linking verb NTB or something. So there are different ways of notating this, but really they're all just SLVSCs. You're still got a subject, a linking verb, and a subject complement. How you further subdivide, whether it's a noun or an adjective or a to be verb or not, I mean, yeah, you could get 4 patterns out of this, but they all really look the same. And then while we're here, let's just remember, right, the rest of them. So there's 4, and then here's the other 6, making 10 total sentence patterns. So if you look up sentence patterns, you may find 5 like we have, or you may have 10, which breaks them out individually. But the others are the Steve Doe with the direct object, a Stivio Doe with the indirect and the direct object, the Steve Duck with the object complement, and that comes in the adjective and then the noun nominative versions. And then there's going to be a Sitva and then the Stiva A. So that's how these sentence patterns shake out. So when you're feeling confident, you can review, right? Here's what they all look like. So Sitva, Steve Doe, Stivio Doe with the indirect object, Steve Doc with the object complement, SLVSC with the subject complement. You're ready to review. So 3R is all about, well, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. Some of these sentences may be familiar because we already did them, but we didn't diagram them. So now you're going to diagram them. So take your time, whoosh, and run through all of those, and then watch the video that gives you the answers, and make sure that you're putting everything in the right spot. And that is Chapter 3. You've made it through sentence patterns. Congrats!